Okay, so this is a baritone guitar song. I don't have a baritone guitar, so I just have a detuned regular guitar here. And the tuning is C sharp, F sharp, B, E, G sharp, C sharp. I'll put that tuning in the description. Likely what it is a baritone guitar is often tuned down a fourth, so B, E, A, D, F sharp, B, and then capoed at the second fret is how you would get to this tuning. It's not too crazy low, so it should be okay on your guitar. All right, so the first chord is this first finger on the third fret of the second string, second finger on the fourth fret of the fourth string, third finger on the fifth fret of the sixth string, and pinky on the fifth fret of the 5th string, okay? So it's kind of like a C moved up, you know, so it becomes like a D. And then this chord, the chord that it changes to a lot is this, which is like a crazy type of G. So notice my 1st and 2nd stay where they are. My 3rd finger moves over to take over from where my pinky had been on the 5th fret of the 5th string. My thumb grabs the 3rd fret on the 6th string, and my pinky grabs the 5th fret on the 1st string. You know, if you're someone who can't play with your thumb, you know, you could just go, you could just leave that note off, you know. You know, in that case, you just wouldn't want to play this string at all. But it's an option for those of you who don't play with your thumbs. So it obviously switches between those chords a lot. This song has kind of funny timing, or it's funny for me. I mean, if you know it very well and you know how it goes with the words, it shouldn't be too hard. I wrote out a chart, which I will link to. You know, the timings are kind of funny. You know, it sometimes, you know, it spends different amounts of time, you know, between the two, between those chords and between a lot of the chords. There's another thing that happens on this chord often when there's time. When it's on this chord for longer, she does this a lot. So the 2nd finger goes from being on the 4th fret of the 4th string to hammering on the 4th fret on the 3rd string. So for instance, like often when there's, you know, 2 bars on this chord, I'm going to call this chord the G. So when I have 2 bars on it, I'll go 1. You hear that first in the intro because it goes, and in the intro it's longer. It's like 4 bars on the G and 2 and 2 of where the 2nd finger is. So in other words, in the intro you go from this one back to the D, and now you're going to spend 4 bars. Now here's this. Does that make sense? So the intro is like D to G, D to G, and then that time it hangs on G longer and does this in the 2nd half of the time of the G. The 2nd finger moves from the 4th string to the 3rd string, and it hammers it on. Okay, let's talk about the right hand. So I watched a live video where she kind of does this. Like, it's kind of like the thumb is always doing this like alternate, you know, sort of proper finger picking type thing, right? And then it's like and then just the index finger kind of doing the swiping on the top strings. I'll show that kind of in slow motion because that's a nice way to play it. So it's like, let's say I'm on this chord, my thumb is going to go between the 6th string and the 4th string, you know, but it can be kind of sloppy. It can be a little bit strummy, you know. So it's picking between those 2 strings, but it's kind of like strumming other strings as it does so, right? And then the index is kind of going in between some of the thumbs on either just the 2nd string and the 3rd string, or sometimes it goes up to the 1st string. So you get this kind of thing. When I listen to the record, I don't really hear that. So I was kind of playing it more like, so it's more of I'm doing more of a strum, like kind of doing thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index. Maybe thumb, index, thumb, index, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, index, thumb. That could work, you know. You could play with it. I also played with a pick, and it sounds nice. You know. You know, if you're more of a pick person, I wouldn't hesitate to play the song with a pick. There is a little sort of melody in that top, this kind of thing. It's not all the time though, right? So it's not really a part in that way, right? So it's just something you could kind of get in there. Anyway, sorry if that's all very vague, but I do think it's that kind of part, meaning there isn't an exact part, so I would just sort of play with it. You could strum the whole thing with your fingers, with your thumb. That'd be like down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down. Okay, so let's go back to the chords. So hopefully that gets you somewhere with the strumming. The verse goes from the D to the G, back to the D. D, back to the G, stays on the G, does the hammer-on thing, back to the D. Now this time it's going to go G for one bar, and then this is like an E minor. None of these are like the real names of the chords, by the way. It's just like if we were in standard tuning. So this shape is like first finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, 2nd finger on the 9th fret of the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 10th fret of the 5th string, and pinky on the 10th fret of the 1st string, and then you strum everything. That one rhythmically feels funny, right? Because it feels like you're shortchanging the G. It's like 1, 2, 1, and you're on that for 2. And then it's just D to G, hammer-on thing, back to the D. That's the verse, and the verse always repeats. Then there's the, I'll call it chorus, the spit the blood back, right? Goes to the G, spit the blood back, spit the blood back. D, now A7 sus 4, which is first finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Does that for a bar, and then goes from the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string to the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. So spit the blood back, spit the blood back, baby. So the first chorus ends with D to G, hammer-on thing, D. And it kind of like hangs out. That's the end of the first chorus is kind of weird. It sort of stays on the on the D. I kind of hear an A in there sometimes, and then it goes to the G, and then it's back to the verse. You could just like hang on a G. Nothing really happens in that part. The second chorus, oh, so long, prisoner. Now it's this longer. So longer on that G. The I won't be home is all on the G. I don't know if it's with the 2nd finger on the 4th string or the 2nd finger on the 3rd string. Either one works. That's just a regular E minor. First finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. And now that A7 trick again. A7 sus 4 to A7, so that leads to the bridge, which is kind of like a bridge outro, right? Because it's like a bridge, but it doesn't ever really go back. It kind of goes back to the end of the chorus type of thing. Anyway, okay, so the bridge is like G. Oh, I think that she starts playing G regular. Okay, let's do that again. So then it goes to the bridge, which is kind of like a bridge outro, because it's like the last thing that happens. G. Just like a regular G. I mean, I'm playing this kind, so 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string and 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And then this B minor. 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then the 1st finger moves to the 2nd fret on the 6th string. And then back to the G. It does this 3 times. She kind of might do that sometimes. That's open 5th string, and then 1st finger to the, So you can do that. G, this is G for 2 bars. E minor kind of thing. F sharp kind of thing. Back to G. Does that 3 times. G. This time you hear that note. So same thing with the 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and now the 1st finger gets the 2nd fret on the 1st string. You don't really want this open 5th string, by the way, so my 2nd finger is leaning over to mute that. And then it's kind of like the end of the chorus, right? So long, I won't be, and then it's like the end of the 2nd chorus, because I won't be home, I won't be home with you tonight. And again to the E minor. This time when it does the A7 thing, it does this twice. A7 sus to A7, and then it ends on the 1st chord we did on the weird D. Okay, I will upload my chart so that you can follow along in that way. But hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully it's not too hard to figure out a strumming pattern that works for you. And I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching.